Good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, and so we'll get the August 26, 2020 Metroplan meeting started here. I want to welcome everyone on board this morning, and hope all is well and you're being safe with all the COVID issues going on. At this time, I would like Lakeisha to call the roll so we'd have a record of the attendees. So if you do that.
Surely will. Good morning, everyone. So first off, I have City of Alexander, City of Austin, and be sure to unmute yourself as well. City of Bauxite, City of Benton, City of Bryant.
Present.
Yes, I love them. We used to put them on our fingers, like, you know, put them on your clothes and yeah.
And be sure to mute yourself as well.
Absolutely.
City of Cabot.
Present. Joe Gunderman in for Mayor Ken Kincaid.
Thank you. City of Hammock Village. City of Conway.
Yes, James Walden here.
City of Greenbrier. City of Guy. City of Haskell.
Here.
Hot Springs Village.
Here.
City of Little Rock.
Here, John Honeywell for Mayor Frank Scott.
City of Jacksonville. City of Lone Oak. City of Maumelle.
Bob Johnson, Mayor of Jacksonville, is here.
Thank you.
Present for Maumelle.
Thank you. City of Mayflower. City of Mount Vernon. City of North Little Rock. City of Shannon Hills. City of Sheridan.
Sherwood, here.
Thank you. City of Traskwood. City of Ward.
Mayor Gastineau here.
City of Brewster. City of Wrightsville. City of Valonia. Faulkner County. Grant County. Lone Oak County.
Here.
Pulaski County.
Here's Steve Brummett sitting in for Judge Hyde.
Thank you. Saline County.
Here.
Do we have anyone representing RDOT?
Yes, this is Steve Frisbee with Transportation Planning and Policy Division. And look here, is Sonny on with me?
Thank you.
Yes, I'm here too.
Thank you, Sonny.
Rock Region Metro.
Here, this is Joe Prokop for Charles Frazier.
Thank you. Little Rock Port Authority.
Brian Day is here, and I believe Marcia Guffey is on the line as well.
Thank you. And Bill and Hillary Clinton National Airport. Do we have anyone else that's on the line that I did not call? All right, that's all I have.
Thank you, Lakeisha, for that roll call. And before we get started here, I'd like to reach out to Mayor Smith. I don't know if he's kind of under the weather with his knee, but we wish him well. So moving along, first item on the agenda is the minutes from the June meeting of 2020. And I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
Motion to
So
approve
moved.
minutes.
Mayor Johnson. Second, Mayor Johnson.
Been a motion made in second to accept the minute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Second item on our agenda is to approve the financial statement for June and July of 2020. And I would also entertain a motion to accept those.
So moved.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the record,
Second.
noted that Mayor Farmer from Benton is here and made the second.
All right. Is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Did I lose y'all?
Aye.
Sorry about that. All right. Third item on our agenda today is agency reports, and I'll turn it over to Tab first of all with Metroplan.
Very good. Thank you, Judge. We're taking care of business best we can in regional planning in the time of COVID. We've got a lot of reports for you today just to give you some updates on where things stand. Number one, we've made a new hire I'll introduce you to later with Bernadette Rhodes. With city planning and small city council oversight. We'll introduce you to her in a second. We're going to give you a chance to see some of the work that's been ongoing, promoting and working towards a new long-range metropolitan transportation plan. One of the major charges we are given by Federal Highway with the regional advisory committees. You'll get a chance to hear from the chairs of the three committees for the first time in this meeting, which just to give you some update on where we stand with that. And you'll get some updates on where we stand with the CART's tips projects and our obligation objectives for this year, which are important and actually Casey's going to report us in very good shape. And then we'll get a first blush look at some of the calls for project letters of interest for the STBG funding. That's actually the applications are due end of September. You get to see some of that. One of the things I do want to point out though is that we had a certification review at Metroplan. We meet with Federal Highway every so many years, 4 years roughly is what it's been since our last certification review. And it went very positively in the way we conduct our business here. There are some things we could work on. But one of the things that became clear to Casey and I as we sat through the certification review process with Federal Highway and Amy is that we probably could do a better job in engaging both RDOT and Rock Region Metro at a policy level, not through the regional advisory committees necessarily, which they are good information and can help those regional advisory committees and that citizen input along. But we can do a better job of asking their opinion and getting their input as at a peer-to-peer level with the Metroplan Board of Directors. So we'll probably discuss that at this upcoming executive committee meeting, perhaps even the Small Cities Council meeting, to find a way and offer a handout to RDOT and Rock Region Metro so that we can do a better job of getting their direct input as we are charged to do by Federal Highway in cooperating and coordinating our long-range metropolitan transportation plan with those two entities. We are mandated to do that. We think we can do it a better fashion than we have heretofore, and we want to explore that with those two agencies. So that's something you'll hear more about in the coming months, we think. But Mr. Chairman, that's all I have, and I'll turn it over to, if you like, to Steve Frisbee with RDOT.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Tab. And yeah, that sounds really good. I look forward to that. That would be happy to come along and be a part of that peer-to-peer review with you. Don't have a lot here today. Just want to mention a few projects that were awarded in the June letting for this area. We've got job 061507 is Highway 365, Palarum Creek Street, bridge structure replacement in Pulaski County. I've got another job 061589, Highway 161 in Pulaski County. That's a mill and inlay project from Highway 67 to 440. Got job 061597, Highway 10 from Reservoir Road to Mississippi Avenue, another mill and inlay project there in Little Rock. 061630 is an I-430 job, Highway 10 to Highway 100. That's that pretty good sized system preservation job, some ITS improvements there in Pulaski County. It's going to have the shared use shoulder. We don't have any jobs advertised in the September letting, getting ready for a pretty good size November letting. Wanted to point out a virtual public meeting end date that actually ends today. Many of you may know about. It's the Southwest Trail, but there's a website you can go to and provide that public input for this virtual public hearing for the preferred alternatives for the Southwest Trail. That's the bike and path connecting the city of Hot Springs with the city of Little Rock. And I'd be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for that report. And does anyone have any questions for Steve? All right. Moving on, Charles with Rock Region Metro.
This is Joe Prokop filling in for Charles this morning. We've got two items today. First is that we're continuing to deal with the challenges of COVID-19. In particular, we're extremely focused on the cleaning and sanitization of our vehicles and facilities to protect our employees and the riding public. At this time, we're encouraging essential trips only. Consistent with social distancing guidelines, that means limiting 10 passengers to each fixed route vehicle. And due to the impact of the pandemic, ridership is currently down 50%. On a more positive note, yesterday, Rock Region Metro's Board of Directors formally approved step one of our three-step plan for Ride 2020 growth plan. Step one is a budget neutral service plan that improves public transit service for the community, demonstrates that Metro is operating as efficiently as possible with taxpayer dollars, and formally introduces Metro's Uber-like on-demand service known as Metro Connect. Immediate next steps include partnering with the cities of Maumelle, Sherwood, Jacksonville, and Conway to implement Metro Connect service within their individual jurisdictions. This year-long project couldn't have been possible without many of our Metroplan partners. We'd like to formally thank those individuals who participated on our Stakeholder Advisory Committee, including Metroplan Executive Director Tab Townsell, Pulaski County Judge Barry Hyde, and RDOT Public Transit Administrator Greg Nation. Lastly, while this is an exciting time for these changes, COVID-19 is still present, and these changes will not begin being implemented until November of 2020. That's all we have.
Well, thank you, Joe, for that report. And any questions for Joe? Moving on to the Little Rock Port, Brian Day. Brian.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just kind of an update. We've shared in the last couple of months that we've submitted a number of grants for infrastructure, mostly railroad infrastructure. We are still waiting on an answer whether we were successfully funded or not. Hopefully we'll know something prior to the election. And when we do, if we're successful, we'll be sure and let this group know. We also, as an update, when we met last time, we talked about the road improvements being made at the port with help from the county, the city, and RDOT. We're investing over $11 million in road improvements to the port. Those are well underway. Craft and Toll is the engineer. Redstone's doing some of the construction. The city's been very helpful, and as has the county, and we're making good progress there. We have started a planning effort for the port to kind of develop a long-range plan to talk about land acquisition and land use, what a future road network could look like, what a future rail network could look like, what facilities we need to grow logistics and transportation. And many of the agencies on this call are helping with that, and we're very grateful for that. And then Marcia Guffey, who works with us now and is on the call, coordinated what I thought was a pretty neat deal. We had a security assessment from Homeland Security. And Tab, kind of like you, there's some things we need to work on. But we're excited about the assessment. We're going to be analyzing it and using that document to improve security at the port, as it mainly relates to moving goods and commodities via rail, road, or river. And that's all I have. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Does anyone have any questions for Brian? If not, we'll move on to, I'm going to make an attempt and as a former auctioneer on Brian Melowski. I hope I didn't mess that up too much with the Clinton National Airport. Is he on?
I'm not sure he's on today, Judge.
All right. Okay. Well, the next item on our agenda is a Small Cities Council update. And Tab, if you would like to take it from here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Judge. We're very pleased to announce the addition of a new staff member to Metroplan. She is Bernadette Gunn Rhodes, native of Connecticut, most recently by way of northwest states of the United States, but she spent 3 years as a high school student in Germany. So she has a broad range of experience. Her husband brought her back to hometown in our area in North Little Rock, and she's been employed for the last 13 years or so with the city of North Little Rock. She was a Fit to Live administrator. She's been the senior citizens director of the Pat Hayes Senior Citizen Center over in North Little Rock for a while. But specifically for us, that Fit to Live director position and her work pulling together the coalitions and the plans needed for the Jumpstart program on JFK in North Hills really convinced us what a jewel she was in terms of planning purposes. And we went out and stole her from North Little Rock, stole her right from Mayor Smith. But we couldn't have gotten a more glowing recommendation on her than what we got from Mayor Smith. So we appreciate his willingness to contribute his employee to the cause of regional planning. And she is going to be focused primarily on small cities. And I'll let her speak in a second, but she's going to be to the benefit of all of us, I think, with what she brings to the table. So Bernadette, the microphone is all yours.
Tab. I'm so glad to see everybody here, and I'm just thrilled to be on the Metroplan team. So thank you for hiring me and for including me and welcoming me to the team. Like Tab said, I was born in Connecticut. Just to give you a little bit of background on me for a minute, I'm the daughter of a retired Air Force Master Sergeant and his German wife. So I have that international connection. By the time I was born, my father was working for Sikorsky Helicopters. And as a result, I had a chance to live in Australia and then moved back to Germany as a teenager, graduated high school, came back to the US to Vermont for college, and then lived in New England for a spell, escaped to Montana for 3 years, met my husband, and he brought me back, like Tab said, to Arkansas. And I've lived in North Little Rock ever since I've been in Arkansas. And I've worked for the city of North Little Rock ever since I've been in Arkansas. So had a wonderful experience, was mentored by Mayor Smith and Danny Bradley and Pat Hayes also. And just really found a passion for municipal government. And in working with them so closely, I realized the unique,
introducing herself.
The unique challenges that mayors face and all the different factors that you have to consider when you're governing your city. So I have a deep appreciation for the work that you do. And I have 2 boys, 3 and 6. We live in North Little Rock, and like Tab said, my work with Fit to Live is really the most applicable to this community planning job here at Metroplan. I was fortunate enough to be included on the Imagine Central Arkansas Partners, so I've had the pleasure of working with some of you in that capacity, and then really managing and guiding the Park Hill Jumpstart project from the writing of the grant application through to the adoption of the overlay district and starting to look at the funding for the roadways. So I really found a passion for the built environment and for community planning through that project, and went to the Hay Center for a spell, but never really lost that interest and that passion for community planning. So I'm thrilled to be back working in that capacity. And I'll be working primarily with the small cities, so those Metroplan members under 10,000 residents. And over the past 2.5 weeks, I've been familiarizing myself with those cities. I've met with Mayor Scroggin in Vilonia, Mayor Holland in Mayflower, Mayor Kemp in Shannon Hills, Mayor Gastineau in Ward, Mayor Hartwick in Greenbrier, and Mayor Robinson in Worcester. So I really appreciate them taking the time to familiarize me and show me around their towns. And upcoming, I'm going to meet with Mayor Chamberlain in Austin, Mayor Reed in Lone Oak, Ms. Hill in Haskell, and Mayor Hawkins in Mount Vernon. So thank you for reaching out to me. And if you haven't reached back to me to set a date, please feel free to give me a call or an email. And I'll be reaching out to all those who I need to get on their calendar with in the next week or so. So I'm looking forward to that. And Tab, is there anything else you'd like me to touch on?
Unmute myself again. I will say that one of the things that we are going to be looking to do, and she is going to be the point person on, is we're going to look at creating model ordinances for zoning and subdivision. So she's delving into that. If you have, if you have a desire to update and modernize, or at least double check your ordinance against something that'd be a good model ordinance for zoning and subdivision, particularly if you're a small city, she's going to be in charge of that and that effort over the next few months. Of course, the comprehensive land use plans and the master street plans are very particular to each city. So we'll be working with you on that as well. But to the degree that we can have a model ordinance out there to show best practices and encouraged practices for land use development and subdivision ordinance, that we'll be trying to pull all that together, and she's going to be coordinating that. So that's what we're doing in meeting and the familiarization of Metroplan staff, primarily Bernadette, with the small cities and their particular needs, is informing that ultimate project. Very good, but thank you, Bernadette.
Thank you.
All right, thank you again, Bernadette, and it sounds like you're a tremendous asset to Metroplan, and we're certainly all glad to have you. Looking forward to working with you. Next item on our agenda is the transportation agenda, and it's Casey.
Yeah, I'll jump in. And Lakeisha is actually going to cover this initial item for me, but item 5 is the Title VI and LEP plan. It's a document that supports our other documents that we have to update every few years. So Lakeisha, if you will take it from here. At the end, we'll be asking the board to authorize staff to release it for a 45-day public comment period.
Alrighty, so like Casey said, today I'm going to give you a brief update of the Title VI program and the LEP plan. So as the MPO for Central Arkansas, Metroplan is federally required to produce 2 core documents, and those documents are the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, MTP, and the Transportation Improvement Plan, the TIP. As additional support to those documents, we also have the Title VI program and the LEP plan. So Metroplan is required to prepare a document and implement a Title VI program and a plan to meet the needs of people with limited English proficiency, which is LEP, under the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Executive Order 12898, and other subsequent guidance. Now, although the Title VI program and LEP plan is appended to the public participation plan, it must also be a standalone document. The Title VI program and LEP plan is formally reviewed every 3 years and is updated in coordination with the MTP. So what is Title VI? In the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Section 601, no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied in the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal or financial assistance. So this Title VI, this Title VI plan describes how Metroplan meets the Title VI requirements under the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It also explains procedures for filing a Title VI complaint. It details demographic profile and mobility needs for Central Arkansans, as well as specifies a plan to providing language assistance to persons that are considered LEP. So some of the requirements for the Title VI program is notifying the public of protections under Title VI, developing a complaint procedures and forms, promoting inclusive public participation, as well as providing meaningful access to LEP persons. Now, I've thrown out LEP quite a bit, so I'm just gonna give you guys a little quick background about what it is. So individuals who do not speak English as their primary language, or who have limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English are considered to be limited English proficiency, which is LEP. So these LEP populations are entitled to language assistance under the provision of Executive Order 13166. This is just a continuation of the requirements. Now, what has changed with the Title VI program and the LEP plan? Honestly, we did just a minor update to the plan. So we've updated language to make sure that it was consistent with current regulations. We also updated all the data and demographics that are found throughout the plan. And one thing that we also did, we inserted a statement acknowledging how some of our public engagement is different. Considering we are in the midst of a pandemic, we understand these changing times, and we want to just kind of leave it open and flexible and be transparent about that. So for our next steps with the Title VI program and LEP plan is, like Casey said, the public comment period. If approved today, this will go out for public comment for a total of 45 days. We're hoping it'll go out Sunday, August 30th, and be concluded Wednesday, October 14th. If contingent upon the board review and public comment, the board will adopt this plan in the October board meeting. So that's all that I have for you all today. Do we have any questions, comments, or anything? Be sure to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Lakeisha.
You're welcome.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to release it for comments.
So moved.
Second.
Do I have
Mayor Johnson.
There's been a motion made and a second by Mayor Johnson. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. All right. Next item on our agenda is the Regional Advisory Committee.
I'm sorry, Judge Irwin. I also, I want to.
Somebody have a comment?
I did. Look. Hello?
I can hear you now.
I'm sorry. I wanted to give a big thank you to the city of Lonoke. I want to thank them for entering the Ozone Action Days chalk mural contest as a city. They hosted a family socially distant event on Friday in support of Ozone Action Day. So I just want to send a thank you to Mayor Reed and Penelope and everyone that was involved in that effort.
right. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Lakeisha. I appreciate that acknowledgement.
No problem.
All righty, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
May have voted on that twice. That's all right. The Regional Advisory Committee update.
Judge Irwin, I'm going to give a really brief update, but the Regional Advisory Committee was the committee that the board voted on actually about 2 years ago to provide input to the full board on elements of the transportation plan and the planning process. We've been underway starting last year with some education. This year we have started and really have looked at goals and objectives. We've looked at some other communities as well. Part of their charge was to report to the board. We wanted the committee chairmen to get a chance to address the board, that not to come from staff. That was a specific request of the board. So we have 3 members today that will be giving updates from the 3 committees. I believe first we will have Ryan Biles, who is the Livable Communities chairman. Next, we will have Colleen, who will be speaking on behalf of the Economic Development Committee. And then we'll have Ronnie Lowe, who will talk on the Transportation Committee. Each of them probably take 3 to 5 minutes, and we would encourage you to ask questions. This is your really first chance to hear from them about their work, what they're doing, and provide feedback to them. This is intended to be a two-way street in terms of the communication. Ryan, if you want to go, jump on.
All right, good morning. Thank you, everybody, and appreciate your time. Thanks to the board for hearing our report. And my colleague and co-chair, James Walden, and I are responsible for guiding and leading the regional committee for quality of life and livability. So, and we've continued to meet on a monthly basis. I want to give a big thanks to Lakeisha and Casey and Daniel for facilitating that and keeping us on track. Even in spite of having to meet virtually, the committee has been able to continue a pretty robust discussion. And we have a large enough group that we typically meet 2 times on the date of our scheduled meeting. And that also gives us the ability for people to participate more and have more input. And so this group, in focusing on livability, has been particularly interested in examining how land use policy can support a quality of life, particularly with regards to physical activity and alternative forms of transportation, recreational trails, bicycling, and physical activity. And in examining opportunities, we're also discussing pretty frankly and uncovering barriers to walkability and transit. And typically that involves existing conditions or design conditions that don't facilitate the type of lifestyles and livability goals that are being articulated by the members of these committees. Barriers to public participation. So that goes to communication and connectivity, both physically, but also virtually. And as a side, but very related topic, the issue of internet connectivity, particularly as it affects our smaller communities and the rural communities that are part of the Metroplan family of towns and communities. Internet connectivity has been a big part of what we've been discussing. When we began these discussions at the beginning of the year, not as many of us were telecommuting or working from home. That has now become the majority of us. And that's not anecdotal. One of the reports that we heard in one of our monthly meetings, Daniel was able to share the actual statistics of our roadway capacity and the volume drop since the beginning of the COVID pandemic. And so we are now switching to understanding that all of our communities must be able to have a robust internet connectivity to be able to continue to do what we do or to pivot to do what we do in new ways. So again, looking at opportunities, looking at barriers. James provided us with a fantastic presentation at our last meeting where he highlighted the Markham Street project in Conway as a revitalization opportunity and the revitalization of an historically Black neighborhood corridor between Hendricks and downtown, and the reinvestment of that through the Jumpstart Initiative. And it really was proved to be inspiring on multiple levels for those of us who care about alternative forms of transportation, neighborhood redevelopment, economic development. All of these things are really contained in the work that James and his team are doing in Conway right now. So I want to thank them for their example, for sharing their lessons learned as they've been engaging the public. And we are preparing to develop our list of themes, which are now emerging, and we've kind of discussed here today, that will be contributing to the long-range plan. So I want to thank James, and again, thank Lakeisha and Daniel and Casey for guiding us. The Livable Communities RAC is a good one. It's exciting, and we really do get to talk about things that touch the individual lives of the citizens and constituents that you're serving. So thank you for your service, and thanks for the opportunity to update you today.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Judge.
Casey, there was who's on the report?
Next is Colleen, and she is with the Economic Development Committee.
Hi, my name is Colleen Carr, and I'm the economic developer for the city of Sherwood, and I am honored to be able to serve as the chair for this committee. And let me start out, our story is a little similar to Ryan's. Jonathan and Casey have done a fabulous job of keeping us moving forward, even though it's been different and not as we planned. And we're very similar in the fact that we have a large group, and we've done the same thing, met two different groups for each meeting. One of the things that we have identified, or this subcommittee has been asked to work on, is to recommend how to deal with industry, commerce, workforce, and then the regional scale of economic growth as that pertains to transportation. So one of the things we identified early on were 5 themes, and I'll just kind of go over those 5 themes. We identified that placemaking is a vital component, and to stay in line with the future of economic vitality, there's an emphasis on the walkable and livable neighborhoods. Public transportation investments are going to be essential to overcome some of the inadequacies we have identified in our current service. We've also talked about home-based work is of course going under a huge transformation, obviously because of COVID-19, but also previous to that, there was a transformation happening. People were having the ability to work more remotely and choose where they live. So that's kind of changed the direction that we're looking at. The long distance commuting in Central Arkansas reflects the quality of life choices that many of the residents are making. And then finally, there needs to be a stronger link. We identified there needs to be a stronger link between the provision of transportation infrastructure and the economic development. So those were kind of the themes we started with. And then we went from there, and some of the discussion on each of those themes individually. We continue to talk in our own communities how strong this placemaking piece really is. There's such a need for some high quality public spaces to attract economic development to our individual communities and to this region that does fall in line with parks and trails. And we've kind of talked how that would, in our individual communities, we could focus on those a little more intensely. We also, some of the overviews, we talked about that last mile transportation, how we can get them close to where they need to be, but that last mile, maybe getting out towards the Little Rock Port or places like that. We have a need, we have a missing piece there that we need to identify or address. And I know that's some of the issues that UAMS has, so we identified that. We also talked about that gas prices are low, which is making the long distance commuting a little more feasible. So that's something we're able to talk through. We also talked about the importance of the transportation that connects with the existing industry we already have developed in certain areas. And let's see, was there anything else on that? Just really identifying that we do have that long distance commuting component in our region. And so making sure we are identifying or helping to assist getting the people that might live right outside of our region that work inside our region, making sure we make allowances for that to happen. And then identifying just on COVID-19 and the unique situation that's brought us to. Of course, home-based work is a new normal for us, and that being so focused at home-based and some of our larger buildings emptying, we've talked about how ways to rethink that, ways to repurpose some of those places and attract the living to our communities. And then telecommuting is absolutely essential. So that's just kind of a quick overview. Are there any questions? Anything that could explain a little further?
Colleen, this is Casey. I just want to say thank you to both of our presenters. That really speaks to the challenge of planning just for transportation, and you really get into land use and jobs and economic development. And so that is going to be one of the things that we're going to need some assistance from the board as to how far that broad scope goes in the process. We'll be engaging the board in the next few months on that. But I think both of those have done a really good job of describing what the teams have done. And then last, we have Ronnie Lowe, who is the transportation team leader, and he'll speak to that. It'll be a little bit more specific to transportation systems.
All right, good morning. I'm Ronnie Lowe, the Assistant Director of Public Works for the City of Little Rock, and I served as one of the co-chairs for the Transportation Systems Committee. And I'm going to give you guys a brief overview of what our committee's task and the progress so far. As a Transportation Systems Committee, we're looking at the safety of the transportation system, security of the transportation system, system efficiencies, system preservation, and the reliability and resiliency of the system. These are the specific planning factors that the Transportation System Committee is looking at, and from that we're going to form themes and strategies for the long-range plan. Our first committee meeting was in February. We discussed these factors as well, looked at all the transportation challenges that our region is facing. And in this meeting, we began to identify these performance measures and key topics to be considered as we address these factors. After the February meeting and the onset of COVID, the committee wasn't able to organize again until June. And as you could expect, there was a significant discussion related to how COVID was changing the way that we work, changing traffic patterns, and just about everything that we were looking at. So that created what are the long-term effects that now must be considered? Will more people work at home? How do we relate that to this long-term plan? We're now seeing free flow traffic pattern all hours of the day. There's really no rush hour delays or anything going on. How long is that going to last? How does that factor into a long-range plan? So our list of themes we were trying to narrow down grew to around 16 themes that in our July meeting, we really worked to pare that down to a more manageable list. We're not quite there yet. We're down to 8 themes that we're still working on. We're going to work with Casey and the Metroplan staff, and they're going to work with these other committees and see where there may be some overlap between the transportation committee and some of these other ones, to see if those things overlap and if there's a way to pare them down that way. And that's, we'll continue to move forward and try to work on it, paring it down from our end. Steps ahead for us, we'll continue to work on these themes, and from those themes, we'll start working on strategies and action items that each of these themes can be used to work toward the long-range plan. And our goal would be to have these strategies in place or identified by the end of the year. With that, say thanks to the board for allowing the Transportation Committee to talk to you today, and thanks to the Metroplan staff for their work throughout this process.
Thanks, and I'll see if there's any questions or if Tab has any comments. I want to mention this process is new. We are discussing, we call them themes, and we mentioned earlier we want to sit down with RDOT's leadership as well as Rock Region and take what the RAC is giving us and really take a step back and look at how we develop our transportation system and how all of this works together to deliver a seamless and effective transportation system into the future, and how that connects to land use and what we can do at the local level. Tab, I'll let you add anything and then we'll go into our final items.
Absolutely, I'll make it quick. This is an important part of our process. This is something that we've always been highly commended on throughout our history, is the public input part of our long-range metropolitan transportation plan development. This is critical voices. The one thing we thought coming out of our previous version of this is we felt like there should be more interaction between these public input committees and the Metroplan board. And I am very pleased with the job that Ryan and Colleen and Ronnie have done to communicate to you what's being thought of in these 3 themed committees. It's also important for us to get feedback back to them. So if you have anything that you would like to say to us, please get in touch with Casey, myself, and we could forward any queries or any points of emphasis you have to these various committees as something that might have tripped your curiosity or tripped your mind came out of their discussion. So we thank them for their participation, but this is, as Casey said, supposed to be interactive, and we encourage you to make use of that opportunity by contacting us with any questions, comments, or points of emphasis moving forward. So thank you very much. And Casey, I'll turn it back over to you.
Can't hear him.
Casey, are you up?
I am. I'm now unmuted. I appreciate that, Lakeisha. I forget about this. I should be sharing my screen as down. Lakeisha, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Awesome. So we will move on to item 7. Item 7 is the current call for projects. We received 19 projects. You can see those here. We won't go through all of those, but we will be contacting the local jurisdiction to discuss any questions we have about those projects and any recommendations that we have for scoring. What we wanted to do today is bring forward some scoring modifications, and these were projects that once we looked at, we did not feel like they were scored correctly within the existing scoring tracks. First was River Road in Benton. This is in many ways a complete streets project. It's focused on the Southwest Trail and connecting the bridge that's going to go across the Saline River into downtown. So it's not focused on congestion and safety that you might see in the municipal street track. There are some challenges. I want to mention that all of our projects have to be on the functionally classified system, which basically means that it has a regional purpose, and this road is actually a local street, and so there are some limitations that we can do. But ultimately, we did not feel like that project was appropriately scored under the municipal street track because it was not focused on congestion and safety relief. It was related more to the provision of multimodal considerations and building a piece of the Southwest Trail. So when we mentioned that, we have not developed that new complete streets track, but we will be doing that and providing that to the executive committee for their consideration before it is ultimately scored. Our next project is the Bryant Parkway. When we developed the municipal street track, that was based on existing roadway and really did not consider what would happen for proposed roadways. So we're proposing for this project and one in Bologna an adjusted municipal street track, which basically follows the municipal street track except for congestion and safety, which is 26 points out of 100. We have separated those so that now 12 points are based upon the ADT on the new roadway segment, and then a portion of those points are based upon the street which it is trying to relieve. In this case, this would be Reynolds Road. So this would be an adjusted municipal street, and then it's just some minor modifications to account for a new roadway as opposed to an existing roadway that's being improved. We have the streetscape project in Cabot. This is on the functionally classified. It's a very high traffic volume, but in this case, you still were not addressing any congestion on that street. It was not intended from a traffic flow standpoint. It was a streetscape aesthetics as well as multimodal considerations. And for that reason, we felt like this new complete streets track would also appropriately be scored in this track. We have the Salem Road project in Conway. This is over Tucker Creek, and it is replacing a bridge, includes some multimodal considerations, but it's also building a grade separation for a trail that would be going under the road that is being improved for that area. So it became really a point project that had both a street component and a pedestrian and bicycle component. This is what we had anticipated the alternative scoring track being. And so looking at that project, we think we can take some scoring from the municipal street track for street factors and for complete streets and use those points as well as some points for the pedestrian bicycle track for the corridor score, for pedestrian bicycle plans, and for basically safety of separating that intersection, and get back to our total number of points for that track. So this would be an alternative scoring track that would combine municipal streets and pedestrian and bicycle based upon what's trying to be achieved for that project. The Southwest Trail is another project that was submitted letters of interest by Saline County, and this is a priority right-of-way acquisition, and this seems really critical if we are going to build that regional trail between Little Rock and Hot Springs. We think it can be scored under the pedestrian bicycle track appropriately, but it still may need to be considered under an alternative track because of the purpose of the project and what we're trying to achieve, and really what it allows the region to do in the future. And then I mentioned, I think, Bologna earlier. I may have misspoke saying it was a complete street. This is actually a new street. So it would follow the same as the Bryant Parkway as an adjusted municipal street, including ADT for the new roadway segment, and then some congestion relief and safety. In this case, it's from what is Highway 64B. So those are our recommendations for adjustments to the scoring criteria for the projects that we got letters of interest on. These are all the projects. Again, we were happy to discuss these projects with the local jurisdiction. We would ask that the board make a motion to approve these scoring tracks and these adjustments that are proposed by staff.
And if I can add, just for the record, to make sure everybody's understanding, which we deal with it all the time, the ADT that Casey referred to is the average daily traffic. So that's what those numbers down below, the reference to ADT in those categories stands for. Just so make sure you understand what we're talking about is we're scoring according to average daily traffic on those roads and what kind of relief they're offering. Anyway, any other comments, as Casey said, on this, or a motion to approve these scoring recommendations?
This is Jim Baker. I move for approval.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
There's been a motion made and second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, motion carried. And we're down to item number 8 on the Carts Tip projects.
Yes, and so we're getting near the end of the project. This is, or the end of today's meeting. We bring these forward throughout the year, and these are projects that Metroplan has previously awarded funding to, And working with RDOT, it is critically important that we move these projects to obligation because we're only able to carry over approximately $1 million per year. And then once they're obligated, we also expect them to go to construction within a reasonable time frame to show that we are moving money on these projects. This is really the critical month for us because September is the final month that we can obligate projects for federal fiscal year 2020. I'm here to report I'm very pleased to say that all of these projects look like they will go in the year 2020. The Bryant Parkway project, which is a HIP project, will likely be later this year after the September deadline, but because it is this highway improvement program funding, we have a little bit of latitude with that. So I fully expect that we'll be able to meet our obligation expectations from RDOT. We will not be losing funds or turning funds back over to RDOT or Federal Highway. And more importantly is that we'll start seeing construction on these projects in the next few months. With that, I'll answer questions. If there's any particular project that a question arises on, I'll do my best to provide an update on it. I do know that RDOT is actively working on the Mayflower project and getting that to bid as soon as possible. November, I think, is still anticipated. It could slip a month or so, but we believe that that will definitely be, we can obligate it and be moving to construction quickly. And then another project that we're partnering with RDOT on is the Highway 319, 367 intersection in Ward. And that project is also moving forward. It looks like they're going to begin moving utilities here quickly. And then hopefully we'll see construction starting soon. But it is at a point that we can obligate funds for construction in September.
Okay, thank you, Casey. Any questions about any of these projects? Next item on our agenda is announcements. Tab, do you have any announcements? Can't hear.
I think Tab is muted. Judge Baker just joined me, and he does have some announcements. So Tab, after you, let's make sure we get a chance for him to.
This is a time for everybody to make announcements if they have them. So it's appropriate for Judge Baker to step up and make the announcement he has.
I'm sorry I was late. We had a conflict earlier, but anyway, folks, what I want to point out right now is we got a storm coming. And it's going to be some flooding of the streets and low outlying areas. We spent 2 days this week filling sandbags already, preparing for the storm. But it could be a pretty large rainfall that we have not been expecting, and we're trying to prepare for it. And I just want to announce it to other folks. Another area on the brighter side is the census. It's coming to winding down. Judge Irvin, I commend you. You're leading the state of Arkansas in the county and return census. And why I do that is we're number 2. So I commend you for the Lone Oak County and getting their census is returned. But it means big bucks to Faulkner County, and we're interested in it. The next thing I want to announce is the old Toad Suck Ferry is coming back to Faulkner County. The state, and that's with the help of the State Highway Department, and be located at a ferry park out on Toad Suck, where it was headquartered for years and years, and it's returning to enhance the park out west of Conway on the Arkansas River. Last thing I'm going to announce is UCA will play a football game Saturday night, and it will be on ESPN. And it'll start at 8 o'clock. It'll kick off the fall football season, and we're proud of UCA to be afforded this. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Judge Baker. Does anyone else have any announcements?
Judge Irwin, I'll say that congratulations on your county leading the state, but also you've taken a very active role along with, I think your county participants have taken a very active role. I think there's a contest between the mayors and cities of Ward and Austin and Cabot about washing fleets of cars, depending on whoever gets a final total. So I commend those cities as well for taking an active competition to see who can turn out the census results the best. So congratulations to your county and to those specific cities for helping hype the census as we move towards the final results.
Well, I'd also like to commend the mayors. You know, it's on their efforts. It's something that we may take for granted, but it means a tremendous amount of money, and you don't get to do it that often. So it has a tremendous impact on the, you know, the economic of the counties, and which in turns, you know, the counties made up of the cities. We're all in this deal together. So I would just encourage everyone to make people aware of it and what it means to your county or your city. So thank y'all for all your hard work on that. Any other announcements? Is there any citizen communication? I don't know if we got anybody on the line.
Judge Irwin and Tab, you may want to speak to plans for our next meeting.
I can do that. We are looking at providing a option for in-person meeting. There is value to networking that we do not want to ignore in the middle of this pandemic. We have gone to Zoom meetings. It's been an outstanding option for us. We appreciate your participation and the success of communicating like this, but it's not as ideal as it could be. So we would like to give an option to the board where they can participate on Zoom or they can meet in person, you know, such as their wish. And we are working with a group, actually the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau, at provision of a safe social distance option for in-person meetings starting this next month. So we'll see if that works out, but we'll provide you more details in that. But that's what we'll be trying to do. That's still give you an option of a Zoom meeting, virtual meeting, as well as an in-person option as well.
Thanks, Tab. Does anyone else have any comments or announcements? Seeing none, I would move for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Y'all have a great and safe day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.